So I think the last couple of guests that we've had on here have all mentioned some element of preparation. I think entrepreneurs get maybe a bad rap that they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, or they just kind of dig in, or cross their fingers and jump.
No, those are the ones that fail, like me. Yeah, it's different. I just took off and it was terrible. Actually, no, that's not even true. I actually did prepare, it took some time, saved a bunch of money and everything, but didn't work.
So, but in preparing, walk us through, okay, there is a problem. I can solve it. Should I solve it? Like what was the decision tree there for you?
Yeah. It was, that's a good question. So one kind of like rule of startups that we broke is, and I personally disagree with this, but it's, it goes a long way. And you can look at like Mark and James's company, being a subject matter expert, especially if you're starting an enterprise software play, is important. It goes a really long way with investors and hiring key team members. Nobody on our founding team knows anything like about construction, or that's not true. We've learned a lot, but didn't know anything going in, like all just completely research driven. So that was a challenge at first. And so I was forced to ask the question, how do you mitigate that risk
right.
of knowing basically nothing about the industry that you're trying to go in and revolutionize? And that was just, so I would wake up every day, go to construction job sites with my phone and just record interviews with the people that I thought were going to be our premier users, which were construction workers and their supervisors on the job site, and collected hundreds of hours of audio from them, would condense that into notes and try to basically come up with a story aggregating information from people who were experts. And so that helped a lot. And actually, I think that one advantage that I would mention to investors early on was we don't know anything, and that's made us more intellectually honest coming in. And so we're not just coming in with our own experience. We're coming in with understanding how business models have worked in other verticals that are similar to this, but we're like a complete blank slate. And that has proven so far to, I think, have been true, but we're still pretty early. So de-risking the process through customer discovery was a huge piece of it.
Yeah.
And the other piece was like getting a team together from day one that I was really excited about, that I thought was smart enough to go in and figure out these like unknowns, since we didn't know much. And then besides that, just making friends in the industry who could advise us. And so we brought on some key advisors early on.
Awesome.
And that gave me comfort to leave a job that was actually like my dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's on the team?
The team today is myself. So I really just bring some like kind of pattern matching from having seen startups previously. One of our co-founders is a guy named Vu Brown. So Vu was at Uber for 5 years and has this like, Vu is like one of the most interesting people in the world types. He helped launch Uber's market in Pakistan. So he was like leading the charge in Pakistan, grew their business to the largest rideshare company in the country, and then helped launch Eats throughout Latin America. And so he's got this, what Vu brings to the table, which is really cool, is like super strong operational background, where he was going to rickshaw drivers in Pakistan who didn't own a smartphone, didn't have a bank account, and was like, I'm going to teach y'all how to make money on Uber. So there's like a lot of crossover there.
Yeah.
Getting into a market who hasn't traditionally used their mobile device in the context of their profession and like teaching that behavior.
Huh.
So he's got this great operations and growth background. And then Michael Orcutt is our lead engineer. He was an early engineer at Favor. He's brought on a couple of really strong engineers to support him. And he's just like a really solid, badass full stack engineer and total hustler, and is like architecting our software stack.
Wow.
So you have a problem. You recognize the problem intellectually. When did your heart like really buy into it?
Yeah. And it was, that's a good way to put it, because it was all intellectual at first. And I'm like, I think most entrepreneurs are intellectually curious people. It's like probably one of the most important components of being an entrepreneur. I started getting really bought in, I think that if I was encouraging someone who's like, I know I want to be an entrepreneur, one of the things I would encourage them to do is like go tell people you're going to be an entrepreneur, and then you kind of have to do it, or else you're gonna look like a sham. And so I mean, I was staying up all night every night, like outside of work, like every weekend,
which is also a demanding job. I would add,
yeah,
as an analyst for VC Group.
It was, yeah, it was a lot. And so my weekends were just like 48 hours straight, like just drinking energy drinks and staying up all night researching. I can't point to the exact like come to Jesus moment on when I was like, this is my calling for the next 5 years, but it was about a month-long period where I was just writing a plan, putting a deck together, and talking to people about it, and it just became very tangible to me. And I felt a great sense of urgency for competitive reasons, as well as just like a whole series of reasons. I felt like this was the time for me to do it. And I felt like a very overwhelming calling to just be like, you should go do this now and not wait around for it.
So at a certain point, for compliance reasons, you went and told the fund that, hey, I'm working on this.
Yes.
And it sounds like they were very much on board with what you were pitching to them, or at least telling them about. Let's say hypothetically, first of all, how did that conversation go? And second, what if it had gone the other way? How would you have handled it?
This is unique to me, but one thing that was really important to me is the Mercury Fund team has like given me a ton of opportunity. And so it was important to me that I wasn't leaving them hanging, like leaving them high and dry. And so I really wanted their blessing in it, less like for their capital, but more just, I knew that it would go a lot further if they were excited about it and behind it. And so the first conversation, like I said, was just, hey, I want to make sure there's no like IP issues if I'm working on something on the side, you know? And they were like, no, it's fine. Everyone works on stuff here. Like everyone has a side project. Don't worry about it. And then, you know, the second conversation I think was like, oh, okay, this is what happened. I actually went and pitched this at my alma mater, which is Washington and Lee University. My boss, Blair, also went to Washington and Lee. So we had this entrepreneurship summit. Anyway, we went up there together, and I had told Blair like, hey, FYI, I'm going to be talking about this at the entrepreneurship summit. Cause I'm still close to the entrepreneurship professor there. And he saw the pitch and he was like, this is interesting. And when we came back, the conversation kind of started there about an investment.
Did you have the heart for the idea before that conversation or after that conversation?
Did I have the heart for the idea? Like, was I completely bought in at that point? Yeah, I would say, if I'm honest, I was kind of hoping that Mercury would get as excited about it as I was, because I knew that if they were, then it could help push us forward substantially. So at that point, like, but I also really didn't want to look like an idiot. I mean, you could really look like an idiot in front of your current employer if you're like, hey, I've got this fun idea that I'm working on the side, like, you know, but, and they're like, okay, tell me about it. And you're like, well, you know, you fall on your face in front of them. And then they're like, don't bring me stupid ideas like that anymore, which they would never say, but it was a thought.
Let's say they'd have done that. Let's say like you would have gone in there, pitched it to them, and they would have been like, why did we even hire this analyst? You know, like what if in the back of their mind, they're thinking that.
Yeah.
Like, what would you have done in that situation? Do you still commit to this? Or would you really have gone back and been like, should I really give up this potentially very lucrative cushion? I say cushion, but it's a very hard job over this potential opportunity.
Yeah. I think at that point in time, I was pretty bought in, and I had my friends around me supporting me. I had a lot of conviction in the idea, and I think I was going to jump anyway, but it's kind of hard to like lay out the counterfactual of if they'd completely shot it down, like the best investors that I personally know, if they were like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard, I probably would have like gone back to the whiteboard, but I was pretty excited about it at that point. Yeah. So I was planning to go ahead with it.